So I think what's interesting is we didn't get onto the topic of the day there, which was all about the D-Day event yesterday and Mr Sunak's decision to come back early, which has caused a huge firestorm in the campaign. And it really, today's events began about 7:45 a.m. when Mr Sunak tweeted an apology, which showed, I think, how much concern there was within the Tory campaign about this. And he then went out and did a broadcast clip this morning where he again apologised and faced some pretty brutal questioning, I think, about that. And I think this is going to keep on rumbling on. And really, you know, it has to be Mr Sunak's worst day of the campaign so far. And the question is, how can they draw a line under this? And we've got that big debate we were here from Christopher Hope. And you can imagine who's going to be thinking about that. It's GB News' Nigel Farage, because he has been out and about with increasing criticisms of Mr Sunak for this. But Mr Sunak won't be at the debate tonight. It's Penny Mordaunt, who herself is a former naval reservist, and it'd be really interesting to see how she's going to deal with this, because in terms of that debate, this is Nigel Farage's moment to have a huge audience of millions of people and to get his point across there. And what's also interesting about that debate is you've got 7 people, a lot of people on a set, and all of them, except Penny Mordaunt, will be very happy to let Nigel Farage talk and make his point and get stuck into the Conservatives, because that ultimately will benefit them. So this is going to rumble on. We've not heard the end of the D-Day row. I think it has been a difficult one. It's right that he apologised.
In a second, I'll go to Susie in a second. After I finish that, I want to go to Johnny Mercer and just listen to what he's been saying about this, and I'll go to him in a second. But before that, Susie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of justifiable. I mean, I think most...
What's justifiable?
Most normal people, it's D-Day. It's one of the most, historical events in the world that our country, brave men, fought, against great evil. And, we honour them, we honour their bravery. And I'm not saying that Rishi Sunak's a bad person, but I think it was just a really bad judgment call. But then for me, I'm a little bit like, if you can't make that judgment call, what is underlying there, And so I think what I'm saying is I think it is justifiable that he has had flack for this, because I just think, actually, it shouldn't have been a wrong call to make. Fair enough if he had, a family member sick, but it was an interview with ITV, However, I don't think we should go to town on it. Ultimately, he made a wrong decision. He's in a high-pressure environment at the moment. He's got the flack for it.
Let's listen to what Johnny Mercer, because he was speaking out. To be fair, he had a pre-organised interview. He stuck with it, actually, and I quite respected him, because he obviously knew this was going to come up. Let's just listen to one of the things that he said that I certainly found interesting.
We find the kind of faux outrage from people who've done nothing but make my life difficult trying to improve veterans' affairs over the years pretty nauseating, to be frank.
Saying obviously there is he finds it pretty nauseating that many people that haven't helped him in his endeavours to try and support veterans are now all of a sudden deeply concerned about veterans. He's suggesting perhaps double standards and hypocrisy. I do want to add a little bit of context to this, if I may, because apparently at the end of May, the BBC were told by the French government, and I'm going to directly quote this, Rishi Sunak's presence is not guaranteed at the international ceremony because the British ceremony will be held beforehand. So I just want to be clear what we're talking about here. The ceremony that took place earlier on in the day, the British one, the King was there, Rishi Sunak was there, Starmer and people like that. The King then left, and I think that was based on medical advice because of his condition. And then Rishi Sunak also decided to leave at that point. So I do need to stress to everybody, he would argue that he was there for the British element. He obviously thought that was sufficient. David Cameron then went and stood on. I think I've got a clip of David Cameron with some of the leaders, including people like Biden as well, a picture of him. So he would kind of say, well, I ticked the box. I did the British part. I mean, look at that. David Cameron, to me, looks like the leader on that picture.
Slipping back into his old role there.
Slipping very comfortably back, I would say. But do you think that is any justification then, perhaps? Because that argument that actually, I did the British part of it, does that make it all right?
I'm not sure it does, and I think the fact is that, it's such a huge moment in our country's history that this is the last D-Day celebration that is probably going to include people who were there, and that sort of bit of history is starting to sadly slip away. And I think it is an iconic moment, and as the Prime Minister, forget the election campaign, forget the Conservative Party, that's why people need to be there to represent our country. And the bit with the world leaders, just normally on a political point here, if you think about it, standing with Emmanuel Macron, Joe Biden, Olaf Scholz of Germany. You know, for prime ministers, normally that's where you want to be because it's great images that will give you that sense of a commanding leader on the world stage. Now, I think what probably genuinely happened here was this ITV interview had been booked in before. It was something that had been in the diary, and someone was like, right, well, you've done that bit, you need to go back to the UK to do this.
The second part of this, who on earth is advising Rishi Sunak? Either they are incredibly poor at their job, because from day one, from second one, I would say, from the whole umbrella ridiculousness outside of Downing Street, that whole thing, whoever is advising him at every twist and turn, either they are incredibly incompetent and need to be fired, or he's not listening to them. I can't quite work out which one it is. I've got to say, many people at home, you're very divided on this. Some of you saying, look, Michelle, the guy's apologised, accept the apology and move on. Other people suggesting that political capital is being made of this. Martin says the veterans care only that the King was there, but no one, apart from Labour and the media, cared less if Sunak or any politician was there. In a second, I'll try and bring up a clip of a veteran who definitely did feel let down. But before I bring that in, let me just say, Harry says, basically, this is the ultimate proof that what people have suggested, that Rishi Sunak does not understand Britain. He's absolutely finished. I'm almost starting to feel sorry for him because he says, Harry says he doesn't realise what kind of mistake he's made. And